Hey, this is Ian Westerman. I'm the head pro at EssentialTennis.com, where it's our mission to bring passionate instruction to passionate tennis players just like you. Welcome to this episode of Ask Ian, where I'm going to be answering a question today from Aiden, who wrote and said, is there a particular warm-up routine that you recommend to find out weaknesses of opponents? Good question, Aiden. And I mean, Aiden is kind of one step ahead of most of the competition. Most players are not starting to think about tactics or strategy until the match is underway, and they're 3, 4, 5 games into the match, and that's too late. You should be looking to identify strengths and weaknesses, what's comfortable, what's uncomfortable for your opponents during the warm-up. So Aiden, kudos to you. I've got a couple of notes here, very general things, and that's actually my first thing is don't get complicated with this. Don't overthink it. Yes, you should be paying attention. Yes, you should be starting to take some mental notes and kind of take an inventory of how you're feeling this day, what their strengths and weaknesses are, et cetera, et cetera. But do not go off the deep end and think that you need some kind of elaborate scheme or a huge checklist that you should be checking off. If you can just come away with 1 or 2 patterns or specific swings, or like when I go here and then go there, or even if I just go there, just a singular shot or placement, if you can come away with just 1 or 2 of those things, then that will go a very, very long ways. Most of your opponents are not even doing that. So my first piece of advice is don't overthink it. Keep it as simple as possible. So with that in mind, here's a couple simple things. And the first one I have to credit to Brad Gilbert. Brad Gilbert in his book Winning Ugly. This is like one of my earliest memories of. I remember reading this book when I was a junior tennis player, and I've taken this advice pretty much every single time I've ever played a match. And what his suggestion was feed a ball right at them. When you're going back to the baseline, you're feeding, rallying a couple ground strokes back and forth. Hit one directly at them and see which way they move. Do they move to one side to hit a forehand, or do they move to the other side to hit a backhand? Even that little piece of information, and check it a couple times, feed right at them a few times, and if they move the same way each time, then that's a big, big piece of information letting you know that they have a strong preference. Not every player will, but I would venture to say that most players do strongly prefer one side over the other. So if you can find that out in the first couple minutes, then you're already well on your way to coming up with a winning strategy. Number 2, hit them at least a couple of high shots back at the baseline. Give them a couple high loopy balls and see how they deal with it. Do they stand there and let it come up high to their forehand or backhand? Do they move back well to let the ball come down? Do they move in and take it on the rise or take it out of the air? These are really important things to take note of early on. Number 2, hit them a couple, or I guess number 3 now, hit them a couple of short balls. See how they deal with moving forwards. There's a lot of players out there, especially singles players, that are not comfortable at all transitioning to the net. So hit a handful of shots that barely go over the net. It could be well hit, but just not very high and deep, and see how easily they move forward. Or do they just stand there and let it bounce twice? And they're really casual about it. Or they recognize it really late and they do one of those, they just kind of hit a stab, reaching, stretching shot, and it's clearly uncomfortable. Number 4, serve to each corner on both sides at least a couple times. I personally always like to hit at least 2 or 3 shots down the middle. Then I would hit, talking about my serve, then I would hit 2 or 3 shots out wide. I wouldn't move from down the middle until I hit a couple of nice feeling ones, and I would watch my opponent's reaction to them, how their technique looked, how comfortable they were hitting that shot, and then I would hit a couple to the other side, and I would do that on both sides. And out of those 4 different shots, forehand, backhand on the deuce side, forehand, backhand on the ad side, you're pretty much guaranteed to come away with one that's very clear that they really like, and one that's very clear that is probably not the most confident or comfortable. So pay attention to that as well. Lastly, my last piece of general advice is pay close attention to what I wrote down as technique prettiness. Look at their stroke patterns on their forehand, backhand side, their volleys, their overhead. See what their comfort level is and see how, what's the word I'm looking for? See how accomplished they look with each of their swings. See how competent they look as they make each swing. You can hit a great shot once in a while with ugly looking technique, but nobody's going to do it over and over and over again for an entire match for 2 hours. So look at what technique or stroke is likely to break down, and that's something that you can probably go to over and over again throughout the course of the match. So hopefully that's helpful. If you've enjoyed this video, do me a favor and click like. If you're looking to improve your game, we've got a link to some coaching that's just $1. It'll show you step-by-step how to deal with short sitters, those balls that just sit up in the middle of the court. A lot of players struggle with those shots. We're going to put a link in the description down below that will take you to some coaching showing you how to deal with those shots and hit them confidently and effectively for just $1. So check that out. If you have any comments or questions about what you learned in today's video, leave those in the comments down below, along with any topics that you'd like to see me cover in future episodes of Ask Ian. Until then, take care, thanks for watching, and good luck with your tennis. For hundreds of free digital tennis lessons, head over to essentialtennis.com right now. More wins and more fun on the court is right around the corner. You'll even get a free gift just for stopping by. Simply click the link at the top of any page.